Shiva Kamini Somakanda Kram! What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another episode of Underrated and Overlooked, where I talk about movies, and in today's episode, a TV show that I feel are either very underrated or have been overlooked since their time of release. Today, I'm going to be looking at the FX series, The League, which ran from 2009 to 2015. So we had a good 7-season run of this show, and it is a show that I think is up there with some of the best comedies of all time. This show I watched, I didn't catch it until it was maybe in, I think, about the 5th or 6th season. And then from there on, I watched, as it was airing. But I caught it on Hulu or Netflix at the time and absolutely fell in love with it. This show is hysterical from start to finish. This is one of the few comedy shows that I feel like stays pretty consistent all the way through. I will say the final season does get into a few things here and there that kind of are like, all right, we're on our last legs, let's just throw out any idea we think of kind of thing. But overall, I think from season 1 to season 7, this show is consistently funny. The characters are, there are a lot of characters that you kind of love and hate at the same time, because if you're not familiar with this show, The League revolves around a group of friends that run a fantasy football league. You have a whole bunch of guys in here and one of their wives, and basically it's just them being horrible to one another. Even though they're friends, they've known each other for years, they went to high school and I believe college with each other, they just make fun of each other constantly. They get on each other's nerves so often, and it's one of those shows that if you don't like a certain type of comedy, you definitely may not be interested in the show. But it's a very funny show that is something that if you have friends like this where you just kind of pick each other apart, roast each other, make fun of each other, play pranks on each other, this is definitely right up your alley. The cast here is absolutely amazing. You have Mark Duplass, Jonathan LaJoy, Nick Kroll, Steven Rannazzisi, Paul Scheer, and Katie Aselton. That is your main cast here, and they are all phenomenal in all of their roles. Everybody kind of has a little, character that they play, and they all play it to perfection. They all are very funny. They all get moments throughout the entire series to shine, and it's a testament to the writers and to the actors in the show that they're able to keep everybody so consistent throughout. There's so many numerous funny episodes throughout the run of this series. There's so many great guest stars. Because this is about fantasy football, you get a lot of football players and coaches that make appearances on the show. And the great thing about the show is, even though it revolves around fantasy football, you don't have to actively like football or fantasy football to enjoy the show. That's kind of like an icing on the cake type of thing. So if you are into football, that's great. You'll get all the references to all the different players and all that kind of stuff. But it's a show you can still enjoy in its own right, even without all the football jargon and all that kind of stuff. So that is a nice aspect of the show. Is it's a show that anybody can watch, but there is a little something extra there if you are into the sport and whatnot. Another thing I really love about the show is the language and the phrases that these guys use so much. They have all these little different things that they call each other or call certain people, little phrases that they say to one another throughout the run of the show. And it kind of reminds me of Seinfeld in that way, where Seinfeld had all these different terms and phrases, low talker, high talker, close talker, yada yada yada, all that kind of stuff. Like, that was ingrained in Seinfeld for all 9 seasons of that show. This show has a language all its own, and it works in the aspect of these characters, and the way they go about using these terms and phrases is always hilarious. There's so many different words and things like that I learned from this show that I kind of use in my vernacular, or certain phrases that I think are funny that I'll say to other people, and they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you got to see the show to understand the reference. It's one of those kind of things. But yeah, I can't really recommend this show enough. Like I said, from the cast here and the guest stars, arguably the best guest star on the show, Jason Mantzoukas, who plays Nick Kroll's brother-in-law. a lot of people I think that are fans of this show have a love-hate relationship with this character more than anybody, because he is a character that kind of doesn't really fit in the universe. He's like a character from a whole nother show, but every time he comes in, for me, he always makes me laugh, even though he's so over the top and so overly ridiculous to the point where it can get annoying, but he's a guy that always makes me laugh. He's a very funny dude, and every time he shows up in anything, I'm always a big fan. But everybody else here, Nick Kroll as Ruxin is absolutely hysterical. Probably the best in the cast, I would say. Just his character, he's so smarmy and so like such a dick to everybody that you can't help but love him at times. And then you have Paul Scheer as Andre, the guy that everybody kind of kicks down, and they make fun of him the most. So he takes most of the stuff from everybody else, but he's a good-hearted guy, and you love him, but at the same time, he's almost allowing himself, you know, to take all these pranks and hatred towards himself. So, you know, he does a great job in the show. And then the all-star, I would say, of the show is Jonathan LaJoy as Taco. Taco is hilarious. He's another character that kind of feels like he's from a different planet or from a different show, and every time he pops in, he's always saying something hilarious. He's always coming up with some crazy scheme that, you know, makes no sense. He's almost, you know, to take it back to Seinfeld, he's almost kind of like the Kramer of the show, where he's just banging chicks left and right, somehow making a living without actually having a job, coming up with all these different crazy ideas, and even his own company named after himself, Taco Corp, that is a company that changes so dramatically throughout the run of this series that it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, these guys are great. This show was fantastic. It is available on streaming. I believe it was released on DVD and Blu-ray, so if you're still a physical media collector, definitely, you know, look into it. But this is a show I highly recommend that you check out. It's so funny, it's so entertaining, and like I said, if you are a football or fantasy football fan, there is a little something extra there for you to enjoy too. So it's a full recommendation from me, guys. Check out The League if you haven't had a chance to see it. But if you have seen it, please let me know your thoughts on The League down below in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews, rankings, and more of this segment, Underrated and Overlooked. I'll leave all my links down below on where you can follow me and check out more of my reviews. And until next time, guys, I will catch you all later.